Comes audio son. You burn the swine when I want you shine. The tree of life, them I want you climb, cause them heart no kind. Comes I say them heart no kind. Buxton Massive, Kidaki, Red Hat.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money never, money never, money never, money never, money never, money. I know what you can have in money. Money never, money never, money never, money never, money. You can keep, you can have in money. When you've been up for a bum, you have been tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, you have been tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. Now know what you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. This all the money that me walk for. I said money neighbor, money neighbor, money, money neighbor, money, money. Now I know what you can have in money. Oh, Joseph.
Well, I invoke the WPA's position that we are engaging in civil disobedience and non-cooperation with the government, and on that grounds I refuse to participate in the interview. The question in struggle, is not personal. Whatever sacrifice as a political activist or a political leader you have to make for your people, you have to make it.
Guyana and Guyanese, at home and abroad. Tune in to Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by Kadaki Amsterdam, where the sun always shines. Guyanese Morning Time, the people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We rise up early morning watching Comes TV, where wisdom and knowledge, yes, it is the key. Exposing corruptions over land and sea, where the wicked politicians they try to trick me. Guyana is a land for everybody. With 6 races should live in harmony. Is one set of people getting aisle money. Is one set of people doing the thievery. Beep. Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. This is a program that you all can see, sharing your views and your integrity. Like it, comment and share it all around. Pass it to your neighbor, safe and sound. A sad situation going on in this town. The voice of the people is getting trampled down. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, which has ordained me to sing. I sing Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. Stop fooling the people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. Stop fooling people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You You are a part of the cycle. I say Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. They got Rickford, Bork and Mark Benchcop. David Hines and Kadaki Amsterdam. Sherrod Duncan, Nigel London. Normal Brown and Gavin Matthews. Big up Paslow Port People Governor. Simona Brooms, Robin Simpson. Hampton Green and Winston Jordan. And yes, we can go right on and on. Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again.
The relatives and friends of young Wyndham Bacchus, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of our in Boston, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of Peter Headley, they deserve justice.
And so when we say that Guyana is an apartheid state, we have the evidence to show.
Come show me your last wine before you lay down. Show me your last wine before you lay down. Them boxing gal can't wine. Them boxing gal can't wine. Yes, Kwekwe fans. The cultural ambassador presents Kwekwe Night. Friday 25th of August at Club Twilight. Sideline down Buxton North. Come out and have a jolly time with Brian Chester and the Kwekwe crew. Yes, Kwekwe Night. Friday, August 25th. Club Twilight, Sideline Dam, Buxton North. Come out and represent your name. Them boxing gal can't wine. Them boxing gal can't wine. Show me your last wine before you lay down. Show me your last wine before you lay down. Yes, massive, come out. Come connect with the culture at Club Twilight. Friday, August 25th. Kwekwe Night. Gates open at 6 o'clock.
You put in a 12-cent meatball, you was gonna lice. I gonna give you a word of advice, take your meat out my rice.
You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop, located in the West Ramvelt Market Meat section. Call us on 609-2049. Ask for Rastaman. T&W Harris Butcher Shop brings you the best in fresh cut meats and lots more.
put in a 12-cent meatball, you was gonna lice. I gonna give you a word of advice. Take your meat out my rice.
You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop, located in the West Ramvelt Market Meat section. Call us on 609-2049. Ask for Rastaman. T&W Harris Butcher Shop brings you the best in fresh cut meats and lots more. Come show me your last wine before you lay down. Show me your last wine before you lay down. Them boxing gal can't wine. Them boxing gal can't wine. Yes, Kwekwe fans. The cultural ambassador presents Kwekwe Night. Friday 25th of August at Club Twilight. Sideline Dam, Buxton North. Come out and have a jolly time with Brian Chester and the Kwekwe crew. Yes, Kwekwe Night. Friday, August 25th. Club Twilight, Sideline Dam, Buxton North. Come out and represent.
Them why you shine. The tree of life, them why you climb. Cause them heart no kind. Comes I say them heart no kind. Buxton Massive, Kidaki, Red Hat.
Morning, welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, D. Buxtonian, Kidaki, Amsterdam. It is now 7 hours 37, that's 23 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour on the 21st day of August in the year 2023. Yes, welcome to the program. How was your weekend? How was it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and today? Because the weekend isn't done yet, for some people. Some people hangover, still boozed from the weekend, and so the weekend has continued into today. But nevertheless, how was your weekend? How was your last week in general? Did you make some money last week? Lots of money. Made some money over the weekend. Were you able to pay your bills? Were you able to provide adequately for your family? How did you make out? What about some recreation, rest and recuperate? Were you able to go out and have a social hour somewhere, somehow? Relax. Here's a Pearl morning. How you doing? How y'all doing? Welcome to the program. I hope you're rejuvenated this morning and that you're really raring to go. Remember, next week this time, that's next Tuesday, we're heading to GCOM, in front of GCOM. I've decided that we should do it from 12 o'clock. So from 12 o'clock next Tuesday, let's go in front of GCOM and sound the alarm that we still need a clean voters list and we need biometrics. Because without a clean voters list and biometrics, the possibility of a rigged election is more than 100% certain. Right? But with a clean voters list back up with biometrics, that possibility can be reduced by 90, 95, 90, 99% perhaps. Right? No system is 100% foolproof. Let us always keep that in mind. But the aim is to reduce the possibility of fraud. And so we must strive to take every effort, make every step to reduce the possibility of fraud. Right? Good. Let's keep that in mind. So I asked last week and I'm asking again, kindly please and thanks. Start organizing your teams of 10. Each person bring 10 to the protest line. I don't think it's difficult for each of us to get 10 persons to come along with us. I hope not. Right? If you can bring 10 persons to the protest line, then we should be able to make some numbers out there. Because numbers matter. Right? Numbers matter. Don't let anybody sit back and relax and say, I can watch it on social media and I can support from social media. For a fact, I'm telling you right now, on Tuesday, I don't have any intentions of broadcasting live from in front of GCOM. So don't tell yourself you're going to sit on your couch and follow what's happening. You might get a report after. But I'd rather see people in flesh and blood in front of GCOM next Tuesday. Let's do that. Right? It's been a long time we haven't gone out there together. Let's do that. I'm ready to do that again. And whether or not I continue is dependent on what you do. Because like I keep saying, we have to stop expecting one set of people to be out there fighting the fight for each and every one of us to benefit. Don't get like the Bajan. Don't make a guy tell you take your meat out my rice. Good? And as I'm talking about that, let me make a correction to that advertisement. It is the East Rhineville Market, not West. It's the East Rhineville Market. You know to get there, right? When you get to the outpost, you turn into the corner there, and it's a stone's throw away, according to my understanding. I usually tell people I don't know Georgetown geography. Lose me on the East Coast, I might find my way. But Georgetown? Yes, so welcome to the program. Oh, let me remind you also that on Friday evening, starting around 6 o'clock, we have Kwekwe. Kwekwe at Club Twilight. We're focusing on the culture. And so Friday night we're going to be featuring Kwekwe. Again, come out with your friends and family and so on, and come, especially them young people, bring them out. A lot of people learn by doing or by seeing. It's not always good enough to sit down and tell them, we got a thing named Kwekwe. Or we used to have a thing named Kwekwe, because quite frankly, it's a dying art form, it's a dying cultural practice. Right? You know, as times change, everything changes. Kwekwe is wedding eve. Kwekwe used to be held the night before the wedding. Nowadays, the young people tell you they're holding Kwekwe the Thursday night for Saturday wedding. Or 2 and 3 nights before the wedding, because they got too tired after the Kwekwe. I say they ain't able to be tired after the Kwekwe. So they holding it 24 and 48 hours before the wedding. I'm not sure that is in keeping with the culture. A lot of us don't understand why we do a lot of things. And a lot of the older folks are not around to teach us the significance of doing a lot of things. Good? Why do you leave the hall by 12 o'clock? Why brides and grooms are supposed to leave the hall by 12? Who's calling now? Right? Why? Those are some of the things that, you know, we have to get an understanding of. And don't just walk wild. And the only way our young people are going to get an understanding of those things is if we teach them. Some people learn by seeing and doing. Others can sit and hear and they will understand. So come down to Kwekwe on the 25th, right here at Club Twilight, and have a jolly good time. It's going to be Brian Chester and the old Kwekwe massive, as we like to say, from Boston. Lots of drums and everything. So even if you want to come for the drums alone, come for the drums. Good. As I'm talking about that, Club Twilight is looking for a professional bartender, a waitress, and a kitchen assistant. Right? If you know of anybody who is looking for a bartending job, they must know themselves, cocktails and so on. Refer them to Club Twilight. They can call me on 622-5933. And let's start the process from there. So if you're looking for a bartending job, 622-5933 is the number to call. And I'll hook you up with Club Twilight. Waitress, and kitchen assistant. Right, so those are 3 vacancies existing at Club Twilight. Call me on 622-5933 and I'll give you the necessary link up. Yeah, Sandra Nova is right, you know. Soon people will get married online. I'll tell you a story before I move on. So the vacancy for the butcher has been filled. Right, so somebody heard the advertisement here and responded, and so the butcher shop now has a butcher, right? And so if you are looking for the best cuts in meat, you can go to T&W. That's the same advertisement, T&W Butcher Shop, in the East Rhineville Market there. Good. If you were to call 609-2049, you will get to Rastaman, or you can ask for Rastaman. 609-2049, right? And Rastaman will give you any advice you need as to how to find T&W Butcher Shop or what they have in stock. But I know currently they have fresh cuts beef, chicken, mutton, pork, chicken foot, and stuff like that, right? Cow face for your sauce and things. Check out T&W Butcher Shop in East Rhineville Market. Good. Now let's get to today's business. What are we talking about today? I want us to continue that conversation that we had with Dr. Hines last Wednesday, basically, about preparation for the elections and partnerships and partnering for the elections and so on. I saw somebody, be careful of who you take your advice from. Parmesh Dionarai says that the WP has to go to the next election independently. Right? WP has to go to the next elections independently. I'm not speaking for WP, I'm speaking, like I always do or most times do, from my own personal perspective. And I think I saw Hazel Pyle. Did I see Hazel Pyle? Hazel Pyle saying, Hazel Pyle said yes. Hazel Pyle said, listen, all political parties must come together to win the next election. Good? And so I'm saying in short to you that I agree with Hazel Pyle and Hazel Pyle agrees with me. I sit on the executive of the Working People's Alliance. Hazel Pyle sits on the executive, well, they don't call it executive, I think Central Executive Committee or something, of the PNC. And so even if the quote-unquote major leaders don't agree, at least Hazel Pyle and I agree that we need a coalition in this country to remove the PPP. And quite frankly, I'll tell you this. In my mind, in the history of this country, it has always taken coalition politics to change the status quo. It has always taken coalition politics to change the status quo. When it was Forbes Burnham and the PNC, they were in office for about 28 years. It was coalition politics that removed them. It may not appear so to a lot of people because at the end of the day, it was the PPP that was in office. But you see, the PPP did a nasty thing. I will call it nasty. They waited until all of the work was done, until all of the international pressures were brought to bear true to the coalition's approach. In that time, you had PCD, Patriotic Coalition for Democracy. I think you had Guard Movement. You had a number of political party and civil organizations coming together, pooling their resources, brain power, and everything else to fight the PNC in office. And when the PPP recognized, Janet Jagan, Chedi Jagan, when they recognized, here, democracy as they deem it was now at the door, they broke up that Guard movement. They broke up the PCD, they broke up the unity, what should I call it, configuration that they had. And that is how they ended up with Sam Hines and what they call the Civic. Because after they destroyed the white coalition of political parties and civil organizations for their own selfish gains because they wanted to be in power singularly, they eventually formed a stupidness they call the Civic. Sam Hines was the last surviving Civic member as far as I know. Because everybody else, after recognizing what was happening, they abandoned ship. So it took coalition politics to remove the PNC from office. And so if you look at that, and you look at the years that follow, the next time a political party that was in government was removed from government was through coalition politics again. The first indication that coalition politics was necessary to remove the PPP from office was when the WPA and the PNC came together. Give thanks to Robert Corbyn, the then leader, and Rupert Rupnarine, Clive Thomas, Desmond Trotman, and the others from the WPA. who recognized then and agreed that, listen, the only way we can get these wretches and crooks and vagabonds out was through coalition politics. And they set their differences aside. And they formed the APNU, a Partnership for National Unity. And in the first go, as a Partnership for National Unity against the PNC, against the PPP, sorry, the PPP ended up being a minority government as far as I remember. Because you had the AFC standing alone by itself, the AFC was by itself, and the APNU was by itself. And they, together as opposition parties, had a majority in the parliament. I think that might have been 2011. They had a majority in parliament. And they forced the Donald Ramotar government to prorogue parliament. Y'all remember that? Because basically the AFC, I think, was saying, listen, unless you allow us in the opposition to have an input into the budget, etc., we are not going to pass it. We are going to leave you without a budget. Unless you come to the table and let's govern this country together, let's bargain and govern this country together, you're not going to be able to do it alone because we will not pass your budget. And instead of Ramotar being nationalistic, as I would say in his thinking, he was thinking PPP. We're superior to them. We ain't going to join forces with them. We ain't going to even sit with them to run the manage the matters of this country. And so instead of that, he did what? He prorogued the parliament. And following the prorogation of parliament, he had to call elections within a certain time frame. And that is how they lost the 2015 election. Right? Because by that time, the AFC recognized the importance of coalition politics. And so while they were saying all the time, we will never join the PNC, or we will never join APNU at that time, common sense prevailed, or somebody with common sense prevailed, and they decided, okay, we on thing. Of course, the negotiations were had. By then, Nagumoto had left the PPP for whatever reason. I can't remember the exact reason, but there was a falling out between Nagumoto and the likes of Jagdeo at the PPP. And negotiations ensued. And so Nagumoto was named as the prime ministerial candidate. And together, the APNU plus AFC formed the coalition and they won the 2015 election. The rest is history, quite frankly. Right? The rest is history, quite frankly, because you know what you know the betrayal by Charan Das. Some people extend it to the AFC. But the coalition government fell. What do I fear or fall means in the 2020 elections? And so I'm saying that the blueprint is already out there. How do you remove the PPP from office? Through elections, by forming a coalition. But you don't just form a coalition and win an election. You have to form a coalition and do work to win an election. Because you have to sell the coalition. And when I say sell the coalition, I'm not saying sell it to your opponents. I'm saying you have to do the necessary work to make people believe in the prospects of the coalition winning the next election. You have to sell the coalition. You have to let people understand the necessity for the coalition, why the coalition, and bring them to a place where they will support the coalition and support it overwhelmingly. When do you do that, or how do you do that? You need time to do that. There are many viewers here who are saying the APNU must never again coalesce with the AFC. The APNU must never again work with the AFC. They must shut them out, leave them in the cold. Trust me, the voices of those people are important, and it is important to convince them that despite the grouses that we may have with the AFC, it may be for the national interest to work with the AFC. Harsher bargaining, stricter monitoring, yes, I certainly believe we need that. Less rewards than they previously got, yes, I certainly believe they need that. But to totally shut out the AFC, I think it's a mistake we're going to make. Every shoulder to the wheel is necessary to remove the PPP from office. Now, I always remember in, I think it was mathematics, or what we call that, admats, physics or chem, one of those technical subjects. I remember being told that the sum of the parts is greater than 1. The sum of the parts is greater than 1. So individually, we have our challenges. But together, we overcome and we surpass those challenges. Because everybody brings a special energy. And so it's necessary to harness all of the political energy to confront the PPP and get them out of office. We can't wait until the 11th hour to do it. We have to start doing it since yesterday. We are behind time. We are late getting out of the blocks. And so those of you who have the ears of the political parties and the political leadership and so on, stop whispering in the ears and start shouting. Get up. It's time to get ready. It's time to do work. Because, like somebody pointed out, the PPP never rested after losing the 2015 election. Never rested. They got back to the drawing board and they were in campaign mode immediately after. The coalition has had, this is 3 years since they were forced out of office. There are some elements of the coalition or some elements of the opposition that we can say are in campaign mode. They have been working the ground, but I'm not convinced that enough. A large enough number of elements from the opposition are working the ground and are doing what needs to be done. We have to start doing the work now. And we have to do it in partnership. Let us not reinvent the wheel. Let us not work at odds or cross purposes. By now, every opposition, every opponent of the PPP should have been sitting in a room someplace, strategizing how to remove them from office and dividing up the work according to people's strong suit. Right? That is what we have to do. And so I'm calling this morning for all those of you who got people who the politicians listen to. Stop whispering in their ears. Shout so that they understand the time is long past for elements of the opposition to sit and craft a plan together to get rid of the PPP. The PPP tries to give you the impression that, listen, what Dr. Hines in Kidaki, Amsterdam, and Lincoln Lewis and Rickford Burke and so on are saying doesn't make sense. I saw Clement Roti, Cement Roti, the bicycle man from Metropole Cinema, saying that these guys don't make sense. Nobody listens to them and so on and so forth. But yet still he is taking the time to pen a letter to the press to identify us and try to chastise us. So while he is listening, he is saying to others, don't listen to them. They don't make sense. I want you to draw sense out of nonsense there. Be careful of who you take your advice from. Be very careful of who you take your advice from. Like Parmesan, whatever his name, who said the WPA should go it alone. That's not some political advice. I am saying that, and I'm saying it now. And I'm standing by it. I will stand by it until the end of the next elections. That is not sound political advice. No political party in the opposition should be attempting to go it alone. Right? And then in Champagne Collison, we're going to be at odds here this morning. All members of the coalition must bring countable votes. How do you know what each member can and will bring, Dennis? You see, it's a mistake that David Granger made in 2022. Or even in 2015 after winning the elections. He was brash in saying that the small parties didn't bring much. How do you know what the small parties brought? How can you determine the votes that the small parties brought or not brought? You see, in team, there is no I, and so in a coalition, you can't tell people that you're smaller than I am. And so you don't have the impact that I have. Trust me. I'll share two things with you, and then I perhaps will open up the lines so we can continue this discourse. There are many who argue across this country that the WPA is not a big vote-getting party. WPA can't win no election on their own. People argue that. I'm saying that the PNC can't win any election on its own. It might be bigger than the WPA, but it can't win any elections on its own. And so the WPA needs the PNC as much as the PNC needs the WPA. If the cost for any item is $100, you can't get it with 99 cents. You can't get it with $99. And so the man who brings the dollar to make it $100 is just as important as the man who brings $99. Keep that in mind. And so let's not run away with this nonsense. Each party must bring countable votes. Every party brings needed votes, whether you like it or not. All of the people who are disoriented, who are disgruntled with the PNC and so on, the work of the WPA must have influenced a lot of them in some way, shape, or form and cause them to reconsider staying away from the polls, cause them to reconsider going across the other side, cause them to reconsider abandoning the PNC. I can tell you that I've seen that. Right on the program, you hear people say, thank you, Mr. Amsterdam and Dr. Heinz, these programs. You've changed our minds politically because we were ready to give up. So every party matters. Despite how small and insignificant you may see them, they have an impact. A lot of people are disgusted by politics because of the behavior of politicians and so on, or political activists and so on. Especially from the larger parties. But when certain political actors from the smaller parties act, they influence those people because they give them hope. They give them hope. The PNC does not address black people's issues as frontally as those of us in the WPA. And so those people were of the opinion that the PNC is not doing enough for black people get hope when they see the work that those of us over the Working People's Alliance are doing. So every party brings votes, whether you want to call it countable or not. Lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. Let's talk about that. And let's start gearing ourselves to next Tuesday. The lines remain open. Caller is supposed to call it WhatsApp. Can you do that? The same number you're calling, but you have to call it through WhatsApp. Thank you. Yeah, the lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call, and you're tuned to the Guyanese Morning Time. Caller live, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to you and all my black brothers and sisters in Guyana. Happy morning to you guys. A quitter is not a winner, and a winner is not a quitter. To my black brothers and sisters, don't give up. Moon was run till they catch it. The longer show up at the end. Bucket does go well one he pattern, they'll drop out. And the one with flat garden love, cow don't know the good use of the tail until he miss it. We did not know how born them. The good things he done for us by knowledge, and make sure we keep our dignity. Because before born I'm dead, it's only flash garden. Remember this saying. Don't get involved in other country problem, and don't make other problem. Don't make other country come and take care or get involved in our problem. Desmond Prasad, he want to make history for himself. He went to the White House. What Guyana benefit by he going to the White House? We benefit 23 years punishment. David Granger, listen to the CARICOM. We punish him 3 years and after because they want to make a name for themselves. Let me talk politics this morning. God make Mr. Hamilton Green still alive because he tell Desmond Prasad, call up election. Black people not get for vote in Georgetown. All them named them Mackenzie and Borbies. He said no. When black man said no to black man, Kuliman just said yes. Chawada said yes to Kuliman. And what happened to black man? David Granger again. Hamilton Green tell him call up election. Look what coming out of these boxes. You still have power. You're still a president. He said no. Black man are punished and more punishing than Desmond Prasad time too. We got to learn to come together and stop saying what you bring to the party and small table. This small party, they bring your family. They bring neighbors and friends. One vote was win election because PPP get 89 and the coalition get 90. The coalition win. Thank you very much to repeat and to say this morning, because Flash Garden was saying all the time, it is time for Mr. Abinathan, old Mr. David Einstein said from today, we will take back Guyana and set and bring Guyanese people out of bondage, especially black people, and explain why he must do that. I said, make that phone call to WPA for David Hines and come together. Because Bonham did it. I mentioned it over and over in your program. I said, Bonham did it. But I could not remember the party name. And Bonham knocked them out of office. The same thing have to happen again, but not with AFC. AFC is a disaster from the day them come out and fool them young ones. Said them go change Guyana, them go do what? They got a turn around and still join the PNC. Let me say one thing more before I go. That's why sometimes some of us need a little bit more time, especially when you're talking the truth and make things make sense. Why I say it's time for Mr. David Prasad or Armand Prasad or Rabatan, they make a phone call and set up a meeting. Let G come, the same 4 or 5 that came to G, come there, G come get the building there, use it, and show them all evidence what's going on. And it's their time for tell David Coalition now, yes, they must get biometric. They must get a change for the list because that's causing a problem all the time. That is what I mean. Somebody got to be man and stop taking licks as a man and do the right as a man. Call G, come, CARICOM. We're still in CARICOM body until we get out of them. Let them come and fix it now. Let them come and talk on the behalf of us, black people. This I always say talk off and let back off. Time to go. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your call. You see, and that is why I sometimes engage. A lot of people ask sometimes why I even bother responding to comments and so on. But I like the engagement. Sometimes you teach by engagement. Then the Champagne is saying she never said that small parties don't matter. But the small parties must work just as hard as the major party. The small parties must not be just a part of the coalition for position alone. Again, I'm repeating what I said. Many people see the small party as not equal to the big party or do not bring as much to the big party. But the little that the small party brings matters. Right? And to say they must work just as hard, hard work for me is, I don't know, I'm looking for it's relative. Let me say it's relative. It depends on who is talking about hard work and from what point of view you're seeing hard work. Right? Ram the time will tell you it's hard work to convince 10 Indo Guyanese to vote for the coalition. The evidence will tell you it's hard work to convince 10 Afro-Guyanese who said that the coalition in power did not do anything for them to vote again for the coalition. Or Norton will tell you that it is difficult work to convince 10 folks in the PNC that they should be in a coalition. So what really is hard work? All work is hard work. I never hear about easy work. You tell anybody I say that. And especially in politics. All work is hard work. And every little that each party could bring to the table matters. Call it live. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kadaki and listeners. Here's my little contribution to the incoming elections. We should not have been waiting for the results of any petition. We should have hit the ground running, right? It doesn't make sense for us to put all our eggs in one basket. It doesn't make sense at all. Okay, there was a little space of time. Then we had local government elections. From the time we won those particular areas, which are strongholds of the opposition party, we should not have let time elapse. That would have been the time when we should pick up on our movement and things like that. But we started nicely, but then now, to me, like it gone dead again. I agree with you in that we need to step up and what we have to do. a meeting is good. Perhaps every party can choose all the persons who would like to be, because it's all good to invite people to be part of the coalition, but as if they would like to be part of the coalition. So we all come together and decide which area we will deal with. For me, WPA is focusing, and they're very successful as far as I'm hearing, with educating our people and pricking our awareness as to what is happening. The politicians, there are some politicians that are killing the vibe. I think for me, PNC, those persons should step out. Mr. Norton, and I mean that's my boy, but Mr. Norton should get rid of some of them because they're not working. They're not working. What is the sense? The people's money are paying them and they're not delivering. It doesn't make any sense at all. For me, Mr. Norton has to be a bit more bold with those persons who are not on track. He needs to go there. Where Mr. Granger is concerned, after the last election, I was sick for 2 weeks. That's how passionate I am about Guyanese politics. Sick for 2 weeks, went on an alcoholic binge for a couple of days and swore I would not be a part of Guyanese politics anymore. But then when I started listening to the programs, it gave me hope. You know, so at the end of the day, we have to work together. And like I say, every one of them, nobody's perfect with this coalition. Every one of them have a part to play. And the ones who ain't playing a part should step off the boat and let people who are willing to work. That's my contribution for this morning.
Thank you, caller. Yeah, a lot of people, you know, I'll take it lightly, like I said, and like this caller just said. The work that Dr. Hines and I and others of the WP have been doing over the last 3 years and so has had its own impact and will continue to have its own impact. But there's still people can tell you that WPA can't win no election and their own WPA can't attract votes and WPA can't this and WPA can't that. You know, WPA was saying, listen, we are not partaking in the local government elections because we know it's going to be fraudulent and so on.
Comes out your son. You burn the swine when I want you shine. The tree of life, them I want you climb, cause them heart not kind. Comes, I say them heart not kind. Buxton Massive, Kidaki, read that.
Come show me your last wine before you lay down. Show me your last wine before you lay down. Them boxing gal can't wine. Them boxing gal can't wine. Yes, Kwekwe fans. The cultural ambassador presents Kwekwe Night. Friday 25th of August at Club Twilight. Sideline down Buxton North. Come out and have a jolly time with Brian Chester and the Kwekwe crew. Yes, Kwekwe Night. Friday, August 25th. Club Twilight, Sideline Dam, Buxton North.
You put in a 12 cents meatball, you wasted on a lice. I going to give you a word of advice. Take your meat out of my eyes.
You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop, located in the West Ramvelt Market Meat section. Call us on 609-2049. Ask for Rastaman. T&W Harris Butcher Shop brings you the best in fresh cut meats and lots more. Morning. Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is now 7 hours 22 on the 23rd day of August in the year 2023. There's a lot of 20s, 2022, 23rd, and so on and so on. 2023. Welcome. How you been yesterday? How was you today? How you spent last night? Were you able to achieve much? How did you make some money? Are you still waiting in vain? It's 3 years plus. Are you still waiting in vain to see the government of the day give to the public servants livable wages? Are you waiting to feel the impact of oil? Oil has make you slippery, you know. Right? Oil has make you shine. But are you feeling the impact of the oil? Are you seeing, any changes in your life that you can see, you can really and truly attribute to the oil resources that we're having in this country? Those are some of the things we might very well talk about today, but it's Wednesday and Dr. Hines is in the house. So I don't usually like to stand between yourself and Dr. Hines. And so let me welcome Dr. Hines. Dr. Hines, good morning. Welcome to the
program. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Well, thank you.
How you been, boy? What's happening?
Work.
A man tell me yesterday, like here when we talk like Creolese. What go on? What happened? Well, last been a back down by. Yeah, so talking about work, lots of work still to be done. As far as I'm concerned, we are in an election year, and things are heating up. Leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, is in North America touring. Have you heard anything about that tour there? What's happening over there?
No, I haven't heard anything.
Okay, all right. I gotta keep my ears to the ground to hear what's happening over there, because I know I think that 18th he had a town hall meeting, and definitely on the 1st of September there is going to be an evening with leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton. Y'all don't forget that appointment, right? But what's current in Guyana? We are celebrating the bicentennial year of the 1823 rebellion.
Commemorating. There's nothing to celebrate about that.
Very well. We're commemorating the 1823 rebellion, revolution. Could you reflect, give us some teachings, if I can call it that, on the importance of that rebellion and the lasting impact, if I can call it that?
Well, for one, it was one of many rebellions against slavery, which puts to bed the notion that people accepted slavery and they did nothing. In the same way that sometimes today we say, people accepting what the PPP doing and do nothing, so long as you don't announce I have won and the process is ended, people always think that nothing is being done. And in the long years of slavery, in our case, 200 and odd years, in some places it was longer. Historians go back and look and sometimes think that people did nothing. And so one way of measuring that people were always doing things, always resisting, because they're human beings. To say they did nothing is to say they were not humans. These rebellions, revolts, revolutions, whatever term we give to them, were signposts, or are signposts, that in a sense measure what people had been doing. People don't wake up one day and say, let's make a revolution, or let's revolt, let's rebel. They had to have been doing that all the time. And on a particular day, something happened that what we could not see with the naked eye, we are now seeing with our naked eye. 1763 had happened, and the Dutch were able to call in reinforcements, and they were able to regain Berbice. But that did not stop people from revolting. didn't stop you from revolting. And so by 1807, the slave trade came to an end formally. The British ended slave trade. And by 1823, that revolt or revolution is the largest of its kind, the largest slave revolt in terms of the number of enslaved people who took part. It's estimated that almost 10,000 people were part of that revolt. So in that sense, it was the largest in terms of participation. That is one of the things that makes it significant. It was also significant in terms of the response of the British, response of the slave masters, the way in which they sadistically killed those people and paraded their heads at what is now parade ground. It's one of the most heinous demonstration of violence. And so that is something that will forever remain with us. The 1823 revolt is also significant because a mere 11 years later, the British is forced to sign the Emancipation Proclamation, bringing a formal end to enslavement, and in 1838, bringing an actual end. And so if one links, as one should, 1823 to 1838, then one must argue with lots of justification that there would have been no 1838 without 1823. In the same way, there would have been no 1823 without 1763. And so in looking at that revolt 200 years later, one looks back and one must look at what African people did for Guyana. What African people did for Guyana. They ended the most heinous system mankind has ever known. They ended it by fighting, by sacrificing their lives. I read in the papers yesterday, I think some professor wrote a letter and said that when slavery ended, it was the labor of Indian people that financed the police force and the public service and all those institutions that African people belong to after emancipation, in effect saying that East Indian people came to Guyana and financed Black people and so on. It's sickening kind of argument. And a big daily newspaper, I think it was in the Kaitro News, they allowed such nonsense to be printed. So one is constantly having to go back and retrieve these moments in order to make a larger point. In order to make a larger point. I know what that professor was getting at. He in effect was saying that the government of Guyana owes Black people nothing. In effect, if they owe anybody anything, they owe Indians something, because Indians came and they rescued Guyana. There's a big narrative among Indian scholars. And so we have to constantly go back, as I said, and revisit these moments like 1823 in order to give our people a larger sense of how we got where we are today. And in many regards, how is it that at another level, we are seeing some of the same patterns that we, our foreparents engaged in 1823. History is an ongoing process, and one must always look not to see how history is repeating itself, but to see how successive systems and regimes are drawing on some of the same tactics that was used. I remember learning the term slave state by reading Clive Thomas's The Rise of the Authoritarian State in the Periphery. A book was published in 1984. By then I, had gone to university and so on and so forth, but we're now understanding what the state is. And I didn't think of slavery as having a state. I thought slavery was about plantation and so on and so forth. But yes, there was a government. There was a state. There was a state, and the slave state turned into the colonial state, and the colonial state turned into the post-colonial state. And what Thomas argues in that book is that in many regards, the state had not undergone any transformation, even after independence. I mean, after emancipation, the state continued. The slave state continued as the colonial state. The social relations, the brutality, the state, in fact, strengthened, because in 1839, you had a police force. Before that, there was no quote-unquote police force. So in many regards, the state became much more brutal as time goes on. And so when one argues today that the state of Guyana has a responsibility to ensure reparations, which means repairing of the African, one is making a fundamental argument. We are arguing that the colonials owe us, and we are right, because it was our labor, our foreparents' labor, free labor, that was so pivotal to the accumulation of wealth of Western Europe, and Western Europe include the United States of America. And what we call capitalism today would not have been the same without slavery. That is why Eric Williams titled his book Capitalism and Slavery. When I hear Black people talk today that they're capitalists, I smile, because you can't be capitalist in that sense. You can't be the thing that enslave you. People can become business people, entrepreneurs, and sometimes people think business is capitalism. The Chinese are socialists, and they are business all over. Wherever they go, they open businesses. So sometimes we get ourselves confused and believe if you get into business, you're a capitalist. No. Business is business. People do business regardless of the ideological regime. Capitalism is a particular system of entrepreneurship. A system of entrepreneurship that has as its central thesis, the strong survive. You know, you get into the capitalist market and you fight it out, and who win, win, and who lose, lose. So it is that capitalism that oversaw slavery and colonialism. It has been modified since. It has been modified in some regard, but the central thesis of Western capitalism remained the same. We are seeing it as regards our oil now. Back then it was sugar. And we've seen it as regards oil. So 1823 becomes pregnant with African resistance, African tenacity, European cruelty, European inhumanity, all of that you're seeing there in 1823. And it shows the length that human beings will go to accumulate wealth under what is called capitalism, Western capitalism. And the danger is today, we see the same kind of political regime in pursuit of wealth. The regime, the state, knows no boundaries. I mean, people of Mocha Arcadia have now gone to court. We have a state that is licking down people's homes in pursuit of wealth because they're moving those homes out of the way to use the people's land in order to accumulate wealth. It's the same thing they did back then during slavery. So we've seen the same patterns. The state bulldozing people's homes, beating people. So the slave state has changed its name, but not its stripes. And it's an indictment. It's an indictment of our post-colonial leaders, and we have to be frank. This was the argument in the early years of independence between the radicals and the governmental leaders. Our governmental leaders who took power, they took power with the understanding that they were going to transform the colonial state into a more democratic state. And they didn't. Well, not for obvious reasons. In some cases, it was difficult to do it because they found that they got independence, but they never controlled the world. And they got independence in a world that was not created for them, a world that was created for European power, the big powers, the Washington Consensus at Bretton Woods after the Second World War. And, the Burnhams and Eric Williams and others took over these states in the Caribbean and found that they had become independent in a world that was not going to allow them to transform the state. And this was the big quarrel between them and their sons and daughters. Their sons and daughters were saying, look, if we are going to make any headway, we have to move the state away from a colonial state into an real independent state. And the fathers were either saying we can't do it, or had decided that they were not going to do it. And that was the quarrel. In some cases, it led to assassinations and all of that stuff. But the fact of the matter is that that state has remained with us to this day. We now have newfound wealth. Slavery came because, there was the development of technology, the cotton gin and the sugar mill. That technology will sound simple today, but back then it was a big deal. And what that technology did is that it opened the way for mass production. And with the advent of mass production, you needed labor, more labor. And that is the origins of enslavement. That is the origins of chattel slavery. And so today, we have the coming of oil. And the coming of oil means that there's the opportunity for tremendous wealth. And in the process, some people, part of the society, is going to be collateral damage. And it looks as though Africans, being the most vulnerable in the society, are the ones that are being crushed the most. So that we are facing the same challenges that our foreparents face. And we are dealing with a state that is as brutal as the state back then. Look at that man who is the president of Guyana. Gave a speech the other day on 1823 and spent all of his time talking about the 2020 election. The man was not concerned about 1823. That is why, it makes no sense to invite these people to speak on those things. They have no interest. They care not about the significance of 1823, because 1823, it's about African people suffering. It's about African people liberation. And that if you delve into 1823, you end up exposing the present regime. And so when you invite Irfan Ali to come and talk on 1823, you're wasting your time. First of all, he doesn't know. But even if he knew, he doesn't care. Because 1823 will shine a light on what he's doing. So if man goes to an 1823 thing and talking about 2020 election, what an insult. And black people sometimes, well, let me don't blame them, because we don't do enough work. I have people telling me, right in organizing things, emancipation, you must invite PPP people to come. There's a part of black people, that tries to be fair. Why not invite a PPP person to come to emancipation? They're going to talk about what PPP has been doing. I have no interest in those things. So, for me, 1823 is about then, but it is also very much about now. And it is what we African people want to do with that memory, that 1823 memory. How do we use it to clean our eyes? And how do we use it to fight the fight of our lives today? Because it's the fight of our lives. I just last night was reading an article on inequality in Guyana and find out that, Portuguese own about 41% of the wealth of Guyana, and they're less than 1% of the population. So you understand why a Kit Nascimento is going to attack a David Hines or a Rickford Bork. Because what we are trying to do is upsetting the regime that allows the Portuguese to accumulate that kind of, to continue to accumulate that kind of wealth. Because the origins of that Portuguese wealth is in the affirmative action that was given to Portuguese in the business sector way back in the 1800s, shortly after emancipation, African emancipation. And they have continued, regardless of who governed, PNC, PPP, they've continued to accumulate that kind of wealth. And any ideology that attempts to overthrow the system that gives them that kind of wealth, they are going to hammer it. So when Kit came out against us, he could care less about Rickford Bork and David Hines. What he's concerned about is the ideology that we are preaching, the ideology that we are seeking to instill in Africans. We're not just telling Africans go win an election. We're telling them no, you have to claim wealth. The minute you begin to do that, because wealth is not infinite. Wealth is finite. And if the wealth is 41% Portuguese, 49% Indian, less than 10% African, if Africans are going to increase from 10 to 20, it means either Indian or Portuguese wealth will have to decrease. So the minute you start to talk about demanding equitable, not just equal, equitable share of the wealth, they start to go crazy. The minute you start telling people, why the hell are you going out of your community to buy things that are produced in such abundance in your own community? They're gone crazy. Because you're beginning to preach an ideology that threatens their monopoly on wealth. And so that's where we are today. That's where we are today. They're glad when we're just trying to fight an election. And that's all we are doing. But once we begin to link that election to accumulation of wealth, all hell break loose, because we are beginning to preach a different kind of ideology. They're okay if David Hines just talk about creating revolution, political revolution. The minute you start talking about creating a political revolution that includes the accumulation of group wealth, because I'm not talking about individual wealth. Group wealth, that is what they fear. They want us to, they don't mind us talking about an individual black man making money. That's why they get some of the claptraps behind them, saying development happening, I'm making money. And not realizing that that making money is not sustainable. Because individual wealth is linked to group wealth. And that is why they don't want us to talk about group wealth. And they are taking individuals and giving them some money and say, look, you're wealthy. But that couple dollars that they give into the individual African is not linked to a larger process of accumulation, continued accumulation. The Gladstone family is coming to Guyana to apologize for slavery, because they understand the linkage between their current wealth and the wealth that was accumulated by the ownership of slaves in Guyana. They know that. They know that current wealth is linked to that larger wealth. You know, Tony Blair's wife and his wife are in Guyana right now. She's doing work in trying to get women into business. They understand the origins of their wealth. Rodney's thesis about development and underdevelopment. So, the minute we begin to talk about wealth and talk about reparations in a new way, because Irfan Ali and them don't mind going at a CARICOM forum and talk about reparations. Oh, African people, they don't mind that. They don't lose a dollar by doing that. They put the burden on white people. The minute you start saying, yes, it's about white people, but it's also about the state of Guyana, trouble. And that is why we have to be constantly advancing new narratives, expanding on the old narratives. I mentioned election. You know, elections are not what we think they are. There's nothing democratic about elections in Guyana. Never was. Never was. And worse yet now. One of the things Donald Trump has shown the world is that what you call democratic elections in America aren't democratic. Anybody can fix it. And that is what he attempted to do. And almost got away with it. Black people, don't let people get you all caught up in this nonsense about elections. That elections is an end in itself. Elections must be seen as a means to an end. They want you to put all your eggs and fight to win an election while they taking away all the money, all the wealth, all the economic wealth. You see what they did? They want to give Exxon an extension. And what they did is that they exposed that the Granger administration give Exxon an extension too. So they're saying, why you all fighting we down? While Exxon and the Americans were taking away the government from you all were giving them extensions. What the 2020 election has taught us is that elections are fixed. It doesn't mean that you don't fight elections and you don't fight to win them. That's not what I'm saying. But do not believe that elections are ends in themselves. We see how easy it is to buy a vote in Guyana these days. That's been going on a long time. They can't get plenty vote. They used to call it sardine vote. Come around and share out sardine and thing in the black community and get one black people to vote for him. So what the PPP is doing is not new. You know? So we have to begin to think differently as a people. And we have to admit some hard truths. And that is the burden of a Guyana that is colorblind. It's not our burden. You see what the Indian sugar workers are doing in Barbados? They say if you move in, we pay we severance. Pick up this morning paper. They're no longer moving them. They're making demands. And they're being encouraged by their own government to make demands. So, black people, we got to start thinking and moving different. The next election has to be about wealth. It has to be about wealth. It has to be linked to wealth. It has to be linked to accumulation of wealth. We have to, in that sense, talk with both sides of our mouth, not one side. And in which we see election as an end in itself, and we fighting to win it. And if we win it, what? The election has to be seen as a way of accumulating power and wealth. And if you accumulate over 50% of the vote under our system, you accumulate tremendous power. Theoretically, will you be allowed, will your government, PNC, APN, whoever you choose to call it, will your government be allowed to wield power, political power, in the absence of their people having economic power. The PPP is wielding tremendous political power with just 50% of the votes. And they're able to do that because they have economic leverage. Their people, their supporters have economic leverage. The leverage that our people have lies in the armed forces and the public service. And we see what they've done with the armed services. They've demoralized the bottom and they control the top. 7 out of 12 commanders in the police force is Indian. In an army, in a police force, that is not even 10% Indian. Yet more than 50% of the command is Indian. That's what they're doing. So you can run around the place talking about how many police people you have, policemen and women you have in the force. The power in the force has been transferred into Indian hands. And the army is following suit. The commissioner was at luncheon funeral yesterday, singing praises to the PPP. If it was a funeral service that sang praises to the PPP, and luncheon's role at a critical point in our history, recent history. And who were there in attendance? The head of the army and the head of the police. You think if a PNC leader pass away tomorrow, you gonna see the head of the army and the police? You all think. So we have to fight differently. That's my message here this morning. We have to stop fighting narrowly. There's a time and place for everything. I am not against people contesting for power inside of parties and between parties, and that's part of life, political life. But you have to decide whether that is your end or that is your means.
Thank you, Dr. Hines.
As a leader, Aubrey North is no less competent than Irfan Ali. But yet, we are painting Aubrey Norton as a poor leader. And the other side is painting Irfan Ali as a new transformative leader. And Norton is much more competent than Ali. I am not saying that we should not see the faults of our leaders, including Norton. But we have to understand the game that we are in. And I use game there not in the trivial way. The amount of energy I see being spent on tearing Norton down. I'm not saying Norton should not be criticized. Norton has many political faults, as do all of us. And we need to be criticized when we make political mistakes. So I'm not saying that Norton not to be criticized. I'm saying you have to ask yourself whether that criticism is tactical or strategic. It seems to me that the tearing down of Norton has now become normative. And I stress North is much more competent than our finale and all the rest of them put together. So we have to criticize our leaders. But we have to do it in a different context from the way we are doing it. That's the argument I'm making. I was listening earlier to your program, I suppose it was yesterday's program, and somebody was making the point about small parties have to do work, and you give a very brilliant answer. But imagine somebody's telling you, Kedaki, who get out of your bed every morning to do work. More work than some big party people, and yet somebody's telling you small party must do work. When you are doing work there on your program, when you are working, our narrative has to change. We have to stop talking nonsense. It is not what we do, but sometimes how we do it. At the time when everybody, whether they belong to big party, small party, no party, everybody is fighting up because they understand the seriousness of the situation. We still carrying on a conversation about little party and big party. Rather than recognizing that this fight is not a party fight. This fight is about different groups in the society. And in our case, in the opposition, it's primarily about the state of Africans. Yes, we have East Indian supporters, some, Amerindian supporters, some, yes. But our fight is really a fight about the African. I keep saying, you take away African support from the PNC, become a nothing party. You take away African support from the WPA, it become a nothing party. And if those parties, the WPA, the PNC, but I don't know where the AFC stand, but certainly the WPA and the PNC, their strength is dependent on the strength of African people. I don't think they want it to be so. But the force of history has brought us here. The force of history has brought us here. Look at the recent story. Rwanda spoke from the floor of Coffee 250 Forum.
Dr. Hines.
Yeah. You don't want me to talk about that?
I want you to talk about it, except that there's so many things you've said in all of the talk before that I would have I wanted to engage you on.
Okay.
I really didn't interrupt you because I really am feeling the message. I know everybody is feeling the message. But
okay, go ahead.
One of the things that you've mentioned that you know, we perhaps can have an extended conversation on, and then we could go on to the run the thing. But you know, I don't know. It's 12 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. Let's deal with the Rwanda issue and the WPA, because Rwanda issue is the WPA issue right now. Because I saw since last week, I brought to the attention of viewers that the PPP True Chronicle was accusing Rwanda of disparaging Islam, and they named her as an executive member of the Working People's Alliance. 2 sentences, I think, in that entire article, perhaps about Rwanda, what she said about Islam, and all of the rest was about David Hines and the WP. I saw also, I think Clement Roy came out with a letter trying to, what should I say, simplify or nullify what we've been doing on the political scene. And then just yesterday, the CIOG came out again on this Rwanda issue, and to a large extent again attacking WP. Put the allegations against Rwanda, the placing of her in the WPA executive in perspective for us. Why I would say this attempt to vilify the WPA through Rwanda?
Well, there are 2 things. The WPA's message is educating Africans, so it's not easy. We are making it difficult for them to buy African people. Second, they must know that their own supporters must be beginning to say, but these people are making sense with what they're saying. These people are arguing that they're human beings. These people, foreparents were enslaved. These people have a right to make demands on the system. So when they go after Rwanda and, first of all, try to give a spin on what she says, and then take that spin and link it to the WPA, they're really speaking to gullible Africans and their own supporters. They're trying to say the WPA is anti-Indian. And so that is directed to Indian people. And if you go out of your way to tell Indian people WPA is anti-Indian, it means that something in the WPA message is resonating with those Indians. And if you're trying to say to black people that WPA is anti-Indian, they're racist, it means there's something in the WPA message that's resonating with black people. And so that all-out thing, look, Rwanda got up from the floor and she did something that women have been doing for the last 40, 50 years. And that is, they are shining the gender light on our institutions. Whether those institutions are religious institutions, cultural institutions, government institutions, the family, women have been pointing to the male-gendered nature of our society. That's all that Rhonda Lane did from the floor. She did what women all over the world are doing. They are raising questions about the gendered nature of our institutions, including our religious institutions. That's all that woman did. Chronicle didn't cover what the speaker said. They went to what Rhonda said from the floor and then spin it, frame it as hate speech. When what Rhonda is doing is what scholars, women scholars do every day. And that is, they question the male gendered nature of institutions. I didn't intend to speak on this matter. And the reason I didn't intend to speak on because I found the simplicity in it an insult. But the objective is not gender, is not Rwanda, as you pointed out. The objective is not the gendered critique of Islam or Hinduism or Christianity. That's not their objective. Their objective is to paint our political party as racist, as anti-Indian. They know that Rhonda is not an executive member of the WPA. They know that. Because they know everything that goes on in Guyana. They know that. They know Rhonda is not an executive member of the WPA. But Chronicle says it, CIOG lifts it and repeats it. And then somebody else lifts it and repeats it. And that is the main message. Here is this woman preaching hate, and she belongs to this group. You're dealing with people who are mastering the art of high-class propaganda. And the only way you can beat that back is to confront it straight, head on. And you have to speak to your people. Because I'm sure there's some black people who are run away with that nonsense that Rhonda preach and anti-Islam. When the woman is doing something that has become so normative, any book you pick up now, coming out of big university with big scholar, they're raising questions that Rhonda raised about the gendered nature of our institutions. People are critiquing the very conference and saying there was only one woman on the stage. So it's okay for them to critique Coffee 250 for having only one woman on the stage. But it's not okay for Rhonda to critique a religion or a religious institution because there are various strands of Islam. Not all strands of Islam have the same level of male domination. It varies. It varies. But all religious institutions, including recent ones like Rastafarianism and so on, they're products of a male-gendered society. And it is only when people like Rhonda critique them that they become conscious and then move to change it. But instead of thanking Rhonda for her critique of the male-gendered bias in our institution, they seek to vilify her, not because they want to get at her. They want to use her to get at the WPA and people like me and you and so on. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. And it shows what we are up against. And so when people say small parties not doing work, you all better know that the work that we do every day in trying to combat the narratives from the other side is serious work. Part of why slavery extended for a long time is that the slave master was every day trying to convince the slave that they're slaves. You know? And that's what they're doing today. Don't worry with those people in the WPA and so on there. All they're doing is preaching hate. Randy Prasad wrote a long thesis about black narratives and then tried to say the danger of those black narratives is that they take on an anti-Indian perspective. You will never hear us talking about Indian people. I've made it very clear in recent times and before. Indian people or black people, nothing. Our objective is not Indian people, it's the state of Guyana. Yet, when we speak about black equality, they always think that we are pointing fingers at Indian people. That's their narrative. That's a narrative. Rwanda is a new type of political person that the present time has thrown up. And they can't handle that. They cannot handle a working class woman who won't go to no big university, but clearly someone who has read, who reads, and she participates every demonstration, don't care which opposition party that lady is at. And she's constantly educating herself. It's a new type of leader, a new type of political person we are developing in Guyana, and they fear it. And so they try to paint her to be stupid and she don't know what she's talking about and all of that. But it's a new type of political being that we are creating in the black community that they can't handle. They can't handle it. So, my brothers and sisters, we have to up our work. And we have to trim the excess fat from our narratives. And we have to understand what is happening before our very eyes. And they don't want more of Rwanda's. More of Rwanda, sorry. They don't want more of Rwanda. They don't. So they link her to the WPA in order to get to the WPA, but also to scare other people from speaking. If you speak, we will link you to those extremists. As you pointed out, 2 sentences on Rwanda and the rest is on David Hines and Ogunse and the WPA. Because that's their focus. That's their focus.
I see also a plan, Dr. Hines, with these articles to put what I would consider a wedge between the WPA and activists such as Rwanda. Because we're making the distinction, we're pointing out the fact that Rwanda is not an executive member of the WPA. I've said before, I don't even know Rwanda to be a member of any political party.
She's not a member of the WPA.
They're saying we're disowning her.
We're not disowning her. Rwanda is a new type. Rwanda is a new type that is not bound by party. They're not understanding the Rwandas of the world. Rwanda is as WP as she's PNC, as she is whatever she as she's actor, as she is coffee to she's a new type. She's a new type that is not bound by party. As a scholar, I find that fascinating. So it's not about disowning Rhonda. Rhonda wants to join the WPA, she will join. And she will say, but Rhonda is a new type of activist. And I would love Rhonda to join the WPA. I would love. But Rhonda is a new type of activist that we are throwing up. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to prevent more Rhondas. Because that independence of action, independence of thought, they can't handle it. They can't handle it at all. I went to Congress Place and I got the reception as if I'm a PNC member. I know the vast majority of the people there were PNC people, but they made no distinction that I am WPA and I'm not PNC. In fact, some of them were coming to complain to me about the music that they're playing, and some young people were there. Dr. Hines, why they're not playing more reggae? Why all these? And so on and so forth. I am saying that there's a new type of opposition activists with a new kind of consciousness that is not imprisoned by party. They know which party is their first preference. Lani Kadair, the African-American thinker, her parents are Jamaicans, she died a couple of years ago. She had come up with a system of preference vote. She's saying that people should have a preference of voting for the party that they want as the number one party, and then voting for the second preference party. So in effect, what she was arguing, that citizens should be given 2 votes. And, that's fascinating. And I think if Guyanese were given 2 votes, we will be so surprised at how they will use that preference vote. But even we, people on our side, don't understand the Rhondas. Because they're not seeing how the PPP's behavior is in effect shaping a new kind of opposition person that is steeped in African Black consciousness, that is not bound by party or organization. So it's a new being. You know, they always like to cuss the PNC as demons, you know? The PNC are demons. And so they use that to disentangle some Black people from the PNC. So it's a clever strategy they've used all the time. And now the WPA are demons. But they can't demonize all of us. So they can't handle it because they don't understand. They run the phenomenon.
Thank you. It's 8 hours 31 and I'm being forced to open the lines, man.
No, you're not forced. Please open the lines.
Yeah, they're ringing down the phone, so the lines are home. Call A Live.
Hello?
Call A Live.
Yeah, good morning to you, Brother Kadaki and Brother David Hines. Oh, wow. I'm enjoying this program this morning. Dr. Hines, you're a godsend. Your vision, your intellect, you know, it is really for the time. That's my only contribution, and I'm enjoying the program. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
Caller live, good morning. Caller live this morning. Please remember when you call to turn on the device you're listening to in the background. This is a long time call and so on, long time listener and viewer. You're supposed to know the rules by now. Caller live, good morning. Caller, you're live.
Good morning. This is Flash Garden. Good morning, Mr. David. Good morning to you, Mr.
Good
Amsterdam,
morning,
and all
Flash.
my black brothers and sisters. They would always keep coming after good food. The Indian people getting good food from Rwanda Lane. That's why they have to always come out and talk nonsense. Because every action just comes with a reaction. It was good for the supporters them going in the school in Borbis and tell black children and black teachers, hey, you guys must come in. This school belongs to Koli people. It was okay. It was okay for them supporters go for kill them black children after the 2020 election. It is okay. I don't pay them no mind. The word got for gone. And to my black brother sister, read King James Bible. Read the one with Flash Garden read. When David, a little puny man, said, no, don't go. He's a big giant. And look what David did. Victory. Now, this message is to Mr. David Gringer. No disrespect to Mr. David Gringer. Mr. Arman, Bonham's son-in-law, that's always forget the name. Bonham's son-in-law. And you understand, it is time for you guys come together and pick up the phone and call GCOM, CARICOM, and keep a meeting with them. CARICOM still have a building there in Guyana. Use it. Use it. It's time for you guys. Use it. If you all want black man vote, I got to show black man that you all is strong enough. Stop taking licks as a man and do something as a man. You all, the PPP, they go to the back door and call GCOM for coming. There was no problem, but they just want to control the aisle and them lie. And GCOM and CARICOM come. What is it? Mr. David Gringer cannot call and keep a meeting. The biggest slap them did to black people is when she returned back to Guyana and said, first of all, let me praise my big brother, Jagdio. Flash Garden get more dark and more cold sweat when Flash Garden ate that word come out of that woman's mouth. Then she said, oh, the truth is hurt. Like if black people rigged the election and them lying. Then St. Vincent's own, St. Vincent Prime Minister said, take your licks as a man. But when you get your licks, you run go to Barbados and hide. The man from Trinidad, he said he tell David Gringer, step down with dignity. There would always be a next election. But when was he time for stepping with dignity? He said plain, hey, I don't want nobody come here. The Trinidadian people is bright enough for take care of their own business. You remember what Bonham teach them? Don't let no other country take part in your business, and you don't take part in. Don't get involved in other people's country. It is time for David Gringer to take him and represent black people. They vote for you. And the lady was speak after me Monday, I believe, when she said that David Gringer met. She got sick for 2 weeks. My God, where art thou? Why art thou forsaken me? But nevertheless, if it's thou will let it be done. My mother, she loved politics too, like me. When we was talking, she said, David Gringer make should I eat for 1 week? Because she never believed David Gringer could do that nonsense. When he see what coming out of the boxes, is a lot of people David Gringer hurt. And now it's not double pay, got for work and bring them people out for vote. Come next election and them talking nonsense about double pay, small party. It's shame and ridiculous. Before I go, let me say this too. It's my time this morning. I'll leave it for yesterday for somebody call you and take my place yesterday. We must remember these words here from the Bible. When the devil tell God, hey, if you remove the edge around Job, he will curse you and dead. And God challenged him. He said, all right, bye. I will show you who I am. And God removed the edge. The word of God said edge. And when God removed the edge, and the devil stepped in, Job become with zero. He left with zero. The devil put him in a corner, fixed him with souls. And he always said, thank you, Lord, thank you, Lord. The devil got more? Give me your best shot. The devil used his wife and said, why don't you look at you? Why don't you curse God and dead? He said, you fool. Can you remember that God gave us all of that? And He's capable to give us more? And when the devil cannot win and walk away and leave Job, the Bible tells Flash Garden displaying that Job was blessed 10 times more than what he get. Let me get to the point now with that. If we black people only remove the edge around Jagdio and them wicked clay in Guyana, we will live happy and we will live peaceful, and the whole country will be recognized as one people, one nation, one Guyana. We got to remove the edge, and the edge, remove that support, what you guys supporting, the wicked Indian people and Jagdio and the government, remove that support. Mr. David, Angela always said, buy what in your village. If you don't have it, then you go somewhere, but buy force. Stop supporting, remove that support. That is the edge. And I always said on this program, the government and some of the Indian people, they are zero without the help of black people. We got to remove that edge. Remove that support. It's supportive mean. If teachers can't get paid, don't teach them children. That is part of support. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your call. It's now 21 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. You're tuned to the Guyanese Morning Time. We're talking with Dr. Hines and we're discussing the several issues in apartheid Guyana. Something is wrong. It's trying to take a call just now. There are some voice notes. What a story is this? Yes, remember what you need to be reminded of. On Tuesday, next Tuesday, there's going to be protest in front of the Guyana Elections Commission. Join me there with others as we call for biometrics and the clean voters list, as it is our duty to do. Caller Live, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, Kadaki, and to Dr. Hines. I was at work because I remember a while back Miranda Brown saying nobody mustn't give me nothing because I depended on the show. Well, I went to work and I noticed in the comments where lots of people are claiming that I like to put my foot in my mouth. I don't put my foot in my mouth. I went to Coffee 250 Forum. Dr. Hines was there. And I was talking about the way Africans are being treated. I mentioned the fact where the installed president, the fraudulent installed president, said that he had a love for women and children. In the meeting, as Dr. Hines, I showed out Tabitha Sarbo Ali was being slapped by a male member of parliament Vanessa St. Louis was being offered a sex toy by the dildo minister, Dharam Lal. Then I spoke about the deaths of 19 young women. Then I spoke about the alleged rape of a little girl. That he, being the head of the state, did not do anything, and it was because they are women. I turned and I said that the Muslims, I think the world over, see the woman as a childbearer and a homemaker. They don't see women in no other aspects of that. I worked as a nurse. I was in the midwifery part, and you used to hear and see how the Muslim men will behave with the women. The nurse and the doctor would tell them, this woman should not get any more children. It is her health problem. She could die in the next delivery. And those men, the husbands of those women, used to tell the doctor openly that the woman come to perform a duty. She duties to make children, and she got to make children till when Allah stop she. And if Allah ain't stop she can't stop. I went to a function, I've gone to Muslim weddings where the men are by themselves, the women by themselves. I am not castrating or putting it bad to the Muslim. That is what they do. That is what they do. They don't see women as their equal. So I don't know what this is why everybody's saying that I put my mouth and my foot. You know what I see with people? They don't like hear the truth. And once you could bring the truth and tell them, they are so dark and daft in their ways that they don't want to accept it. And I am not going to sit down and don't accept the truth. I call a spade a spade. I am not politically affiliated to any party. I am not affiliated to none. And as soon as they see me, they pull me in. I'm a WPA. I think one of them right today that I may be PPP. I would be WPA and PNC, but I will never destroy myself to become a member of the PPP. No how, no way, no time. I will not align myself with the PPP government. I don't know about 1964. I was 3 years plus. 64 was the first part of the PPP. Then I lived through 1992 to 2015. And then living from 2020 to now with the PPP. Why must I go and be a part of the PPP? Now I do my programs, my little concert. One of the persons tell me because of this new thing, well, the senator, the group, they got it thinging, but they're going to straighten them out, let it all a while. That they cannot associate with me because I am too bitter, and I must realize that the PPP get them couple $1,000 for emancipation. The PPP did give African people, the black man them, the money that they had to go back to Parliament and get money. And they put it out there that because we went into the coppers and we put so much money for the African organization to celebrate emancipation, they got to get more money. But news flash, breaking news, special report, Rhonda Lane concert on Sunday was not given a cent from the coppers of the government. The money what I do me concert with, say for one friend in the Amstel, gave me a donation, but all the rest is me pension money and me cleaning money that I put together to do a concert. And after the concert, tomorrow I'm taking a 30-seater bus and I'm carrying all the children. I got to pay for the bus on a trip to know more of Guyana. So I am not destroying people. I am doing things in my community. And if people want to go and examine this statement, and if they got understanding, because listening to the statement, talk of understanding, they will not perceive what I've said. Y'all go and open your intellects and examine my statement that I made at Coffee 250 and see if I am bringing down anybody. That is me commenting. I just tell y'all, don't jump in me chest. Don't jump in my chest. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rhonda. The lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. Caller, 1 minute. Caller live, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Well, Rhonda is Salman Rashid to the Muslims in Guyana. She's a turn in their hip. I like that. Keep it up, and I wish all of those silent parliamentarians will get the guts like Rhonda to come out and fight like her. Anyhow, this fight is our fight, right? This fight is our fight. This is a black fight. We got to stop depending on the other people, the white Jesus up in the sky, and the whites outside here to come and fight our fight, because it will not happen. Again, as a saying, and I like to say, the revolution is not at the ballot box nor in the church, right? The revolution don't start there. And I'm going to say something that's going to surprise people this morning. Come elections over here, I am not voting. Reasons for: look what's going on in Niger. We could face with the same thing, right? France and America were at odds when they were fighting, between the Russian and the Ukraine thing. But when it comes to team up against us black people, and I always tell people we must stay out of white fights, because when it comes to teaming up against us, they will team up and destroy us, or try to destroy us. So our people must stop looking on the outside for help in our fight. It's our fight, and we need to take our fight up on our own, because these people never fight for us. Never fight for us, because fighting for us is destroying their interests. So we got to remember that. That's my take this morning.
Thank you for your call. It's 11 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour.
Hey, good morning, Kadaki. Good morning, Doctor. Hey, good morning, Kadaki. Good morning, Dr. Hines. Dr. Hines, could you explain a little more on what this term supermajority means? Good morning again, Kadaki. Sorry to double dip, but I think Rhonda may be wrong in a sense to put all Muslims in that category. The type of Islam has been practiced in Guyana is Wahhabism out of Saudi Arabia. But the type of Islam practiced in Africa, it is totally different from the type of Islam.
Call it live, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Dr. Hines. Good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. I'm saying that WPA, Dr. Hines, you guys, I think this is the right kind of fight that we need for this kind of, for this season that is going. When I look back and reflect on from 92 to maybe 2015, if our leaders had rocked the boat that time, we at this point in our life, in this generation, we would not have time to be doing what away with it for a very long time, and they feel that they are comfortable to just do anything, to say thing. I know what? Black people, they're going to just smile and they're going to just accept it. Look what the so-called vice president, he's so comfortable to be singling out people, especially black leaders, and calling them criminal and saying this and saying that about them. You know what? I think they should sue him and let him pay for his mouth. You know, Dr. Hines and Mr. Kadaki, I know that this show provides hope on a daily basis for a lot of people, because you know what? Yesterday it was blackout and I was like a fish out of water, like texting Mr. Kadaki to find out what is going on. I'm not finding the program. You find that people traveling on a long journey, they use this program as a company to, you know, give them that strength on a daily basis so that they can fight on. And I'm saying that you guys should the PNC need this kind of backup and need support. And I think that the PNC is more sure, and you know, the WPA has their back, and I'm certain that, you know, the two parties will come together to fight this war. You fight now. Another thing I was suggesting, that seeing that, you know, we advocate for black businesses and everything, what about Chamber of Commerce maybe in Buxton, where you can bring together like these local businesses and, you know, farm something, provide a little training for them, show them how they can access capital to improve their businesses. Because I was saying that I can remember back in the days, the best Marby I have ever tasted is from Buxton. And I used to work with my husband and he would bring it from somebody who sells Marby in Buxton. So little things like that. And, you know, Mr. Kadaki can maybe have a package where he can do the little ad for them, not at a big price, but, you know, be reasonable with them. And I know that it would catch on to the other black villages and we would help the businesses in a big way. You guys just keep it up. Hold on. I know some days it's hard, but nothing comes easy. We have a battle or a war to fight, and we will fight and fight it to the end. Down with racism, down with discrimination. It's not right to discriminate or take things from somebody and to give to others, and not to be fair to all Guyanese. We all Guyanese and we all should benefit. Have a great day and God bless you as well. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Thank you for your call. Doctor, is that question about the supermajority? I think, I mean, you might answer, you might give a short answer now, but it is something I want us to discuss. Especially given the fact, I noticed the way the so-called vice president responded to Nigeria's proposal at the Coffee 254.
I will come back another morning, and it's not the kind of question that one can give a short answer. So I agree with you.
Good.
I agree with you.
So we'll work it out. We'll talk about it. It's actually 5 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. I'll take the final call for today, and then you'll respond and close up lines. Call A Life.
A blessed good morning, Mr. Kadaki and Mr. Hines, once again to the rest of the Guyanese nation. I have to always, Mr. Kadaki, give your program my blessing because it deserves it and you deserve it. And as what I was saying in the past with Mr. Hines, you're a blessing. And you know what I admire with y'all? No matter what people say in the negative with the guy with, y'all stand up in the positive, y'all rejecting it, and y'all continue to move on. That is strength. That's the example we Guyanese need to see and learn from and continue to be mature. When you're mature physically, spiritually, and mentally, that's what you need to live life. Many people are not fully mature. Some are just physically mature, like the vice president. Enough of them, they're physically mature, but they're not mentally mature and spiritually mature. And that's where they talk a set of stupidness. And that's where many times I'm calling I'm speaking also to my Indian brothers and sisters. The reason why I like to address them is because I want them to understand that black people got so much love in the heart for them. Black people are not against race, Indian and this kind of thing. The black people, they are there for the Indian, and I know many Indian are there for the black people. But we cannot allow the leaders, especially most of them in the PPP government, to push this racial card in a pretensive diplomatic form and try to seduce you in the form of races. And that's why I call out to my Indian brothers and sisters them. Let us be honest and let us be sincere. Let us be loyal to righteousness. I'm not saying to a party. I am saying to righteousness, because righteousness is what will exalt a nation. And if we stay in righteousness, we all would be exalted and we would see clearly, because as Mistress Wanda, I'll just try reminding you, right is a light. Is a light that extinguishes darkness. And anywhere light shine and extinguish darkness, those who are hiding in the dark will come out and will attack the light or try to get rid of the light. But light is connected to God, which means righteousness belongs to God. There are only two major kingdoms in this entire universe, the kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness. And so when people are running with wicked and evil and vindictive and envy and jealousy and fit of rage and malice, all these are fruits from the kingdom of darkness. You don't allow that to offend you, because kingdom do not war against themselves. That's why they're attacking what is right. That's why they're attacking the WPA, regardless of which party or where they're coming from. They could be right among you. And that's why God wants to say one of your worst enemies could be a member of your own home circle. So you just got to be careful in the kingdom war and the kingdom battle. So stand up for righteousness, my sister. Stand up for righteousness, Mr. Hines and Mr. Kadaki, which I know you all does and you all will continue to do. And in his nation, please let us stand up for righteousness. And once again, my Indian brothers and sisters, do not allow the leaders to put cobweb over your eyes and pull a veil over your eyes because of the complexion of skin of people. Let's face the fact. And reality, they are marginalizing, these leaders in the PPP government is marginalizing the African race. Is the fact. They know it's the fact. But then we got to face reality and come out from that. They're trying to put Indian against black and black against Indian. Please, Guyanese, do not allow it to go there. It have no right being there. It should never be there. Let us reject our leaders who are pushing this evil. WP is not pushing any evil. I am saying this over and over. They are simply calling the Guyanese to love. They are calling the Guyanese to unity. They are calling the Guyanese to peace. But you got to expose the wrong and the wicked that is taking place. And that's what they're doing. And that's why they're under attack. It's just like many other people in the AP and you and all along the line. So Guyanese, please, let us stand up and let us vote for righteousness. Let us stand up and support right, embrace right, regardless of what the countries them outside the world power them doing. Let us stand up for what's right and don't let me depend on them. Let us depend on righteousness and our own energy and God guidance and protection. Anyhow, God bless this nation. We will get there if we stand up in what is right and embrace each other with love and unity and reject the wrong at all time, regardless of race, creed, or religion. Guyana, have a blessed day. Guyanese, we will get there by the grace of God.
Thank you, caller. Dr. Hines, the mic is yours.
Well, another program, another opportunity for us to converse and continue to press on, because it is a critical time. And these times call for a particular kind of intervention. We may not get it perfectly every day, but we strive to do that. And we know that we are on the right track when we hear from our people. And always the comments, the perspectives that one hears from our people preserves us to fight another day. You leave here, I leave here, inspired to press on with what we're doing. We're not simply trying to remove a government. We're trying to remove a regime. We're trying to remove a system of governance that is throwing up these kinds of leaders who are bereft of humanity, bereft of human instincts. And what we ultimately are trying to do for Guyana is what our foreparents did, and that is to clean the stable, cleanse the stable of whether it's perceived or real, cleanse the stable of the unwanted. We deserve better in Guyana, and we are going to get that better that we strive for. Tonight, the African Guyanese Plan. Tomorrow night, WPA groundings. And then on Friday, I can't remember who I have on Friday, but the struggle continues.
I've been talking to myself all the time. Thank you, Dr. Hines. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. It is now 3 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. I hope you have received enough food for thought. I hope you have been re-energized and you're much more focused to fight the fight. On Tuesday, that's Tuesday the 29th, we're going to be outside of GCOM and we're going to be calling for biometrics and a clean voters list. I'm encouraging you to get your numbers together because numbers mean strength. And numbers show and send a strong message to those who think that they can do as they please when they please. On Friday, that's a few days from now, we have Kwekwe at Club Twilight. I encourage you to come down to the Kwekwe, support the Kwekwe, enjoy the Kwekwe. Get reconnected with your roots and culture. Enjoy some good Bostonian mixed meat cook-up, obstacle cook-up. We're going to have other foods. Definitely there's going to be fried rice and stuff like that. Just like when you go to the Kwekwe. When you go to Kwekwe, a lot of people has got the Kwekwe for the food. So there's going to be a wide variety of food and drinks at the Kwekwe on Friday. The admission is free, but you're expected to support the bar and support the food, the restaurant, the kitchen, whichever you call it. So come down Friday night for Kwekwe. It's going to be a good time. Good? And don't forget to get your numbers together for Tuesday because after we have some fun on Friday, we have to go there on Tuesday and show that we are fighting for a worthy cause. Yes, that's about the message today. There were lots of voice notes. There are a couple of voice notes I was unable to play, but I will perhaps start the program with them tomorrow morning, and so we can listen to those voice notes and we can start the discourse from there. There were so many things I wanted to discuss with Dr. Hines this morning, but you will agree with me that he, from his opening statement, provided so much information and had us so attentive that I dare not interrupt to ask questions and so on. So we'll be together again tomorrow for another program of Guyanese Morning Time. Stay blessed, stay focused, continue to support the program. Remember, if you're looking for meat, go down to T&W Harris Butcher Shop in the East Rhine Belt. Support those who support the program that you love.
You put in a 12-cent meatball, you was gonna lice. I gonna give you a word of advice. Get your meat out my rice.
You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop, located in the West Ramvelt Market Meat section. Call us on 609-2049. Ask for Rastaman. T&W Harris Butcher Shop brings you the best in fresh cut meats and lots more. Come show me your last wine before you lay down. Show me your last wine before you lay down. Them boxing gal can't wine. Them boxing gal can't wine. Yes, Kwekwe fans. The cultural ambassador presents Kwekwe Night. Friday 25th of August at Club Twilight. Sideline Dam, Buxton North. Come out and have a jolly time with Brian Chester and the Kwekwe crew. Yes, Kwekwe Night. Friday, August 25th. Club Twilight, Sideline Dam, Buxton North. Come out and represent your name. Them boxing gal can't wine. Them boxing gal can't wine. Show me your last wine before you lay down. Show me your last wine before you lay down. And you know, I did say I had in mind that I was going to leave you with a Kwekwe song before I leave today. I actually wanted to start the program with one, right? But let me leave you with this one. Adora, darling, don't you wake me for the morning. Adora, darling, don't you wake me for the morning. Don't you wake me for the morning, girl. Don't you wake me for the morning. Adora, darling, don't you wake me for the morning. Me go get you polished furniture, me go get you pearl and ruby. Adora, darling, don't you wake me for the morning. Come to Kwekwe, you're gonna get the rest. And dino dio, dino di la, dino dio, dino di la, dino dio, dino di la. Girl, I'm gonna broke up your dino di, dino. Not a towel to wipe my hand, not a food pan a table, not a I'll see you at